Hello everyone. Just under 2 years ago, I went to play in North Carolina for a Norm tournament. It was a GM Norm section, and I hadn't even reached my IM title yet. However, everyone in the section was stronger than me, and I think I was one of the lowest rated players in the section. In this game, I'm going to be white against Kassa Corley, who is an established international master from Denmark, and this game went beautifully for me. Let's take a look at it. As I said, I'm playing with the white pieces. E4, C5, it's a Sicilian, knight F3, knight C6, and now D4. Takes. The main line is to take, but I decide to play C3. The goal is for him to take, and then we transpose to the Smith Mora. Now my opponent decided to play knight F6, and this transpose in what's called the Alpin C3 Sicilian, and he plays E6 here. Now I want to admit that I don't know a lot of theory, so it's very easy as black to equalize against me, and if you're playing with the white pieces, to get a huge advantage. My opponent simply plays D6, trying to eye the pawn on E5, trying to break apart my nice pawn structure that I have over here. I just simply castle. He plays knight B6. His intention is that if I play my bishop back, he's going to take my pawn, and then get the right to trade queens. Now, since white has more space, it's not in their interest to trade, so I play bishop D3. He takes, and now I don't want to take with the pawn, because then he can play the move knight B4. And this is slightly problematic for me, because if I just simply move my bishop, he's going to get the opportunity to trade queens, something that, again, I want to avoid. And then he could also improve either of his knights and put them on D5, and then bring in his bishop, and black might be even better. So I decide to sacrifice, and I played knight takes E5. The goal is, if he takes with his knight, I have a huge lead in development, and I could play bishop E3. The idea is to take his knight, and then win his queen with a discovered attack. Now, of course, he's not forced to lose the knight. He can bring his knight back, but it's quite hard for him to find the right move. For instance, if he brings his knight here, then I can take. Now he has an isolated pawn. I can put some pressure on it. I can just simply develop, and it's going to be very easy for white to play. Now, in the game, my opponent just decides to ignore the pawn. He plays bishop E7, and so I ignore the pawn as well. He plays bishop F6. I continue ignoring it. Now he has many different ways to win the pawn. He could take it with the queen, with the knight. He could even take the knight on E5. He finally decides to take the knight on E5. Now, in this position, the only thing that's keeping the king safe on the king side is this bishop, right? And most likely black wants the castle. So my goal is to remove any pieces that my opponent has on the king side to expose his king. So I simply take the bishop with check. He takes back, and now I take the knight. And even though I'm down a pawn, none of his pieces are active other than his queen, which means that I can simply develop with tempo. I get to go rook e1, putting my rook on an open file while attacking my opponent's queen. My opponent moves his queen back, and now I see that he wants the castle, and so I'm able to just simply stop it with the move queen h5. Castling now will result in a mate in 1, and so he just simply avoids it with bishop d7. So, since I'm down material, I don't care about losing more pawns. My goal is just to continue developing. Play bishop g5. This is to avoid any potential ideas that he has with castling queenside. And even though I'm losing the pawn, and even the pawn on a2, I have a very easy plan to attack. I decide to lift my rook with the idea of rook f3 and queen f7. Remember, it's important that black cannot castle in either direction. So he puts his knight in the center, and I go rook f3. Now I'm threatening this mate in 1. Very simple. And here he plays knight f6. For a moment, it seems that he is able to hold on, because if I just simply take the knight, and then I take the pawn, he might be able to squirm away with castling queenside, and then he can try to get his king safe. So even though he loses all these pawns, he might be able to almost equalize. My intention is to ensure that he does not run away. And I do that with the move rook takes f6, winning a piece. Now, if he takes my rook, I can just simply take the pawn. I'm attacking his rook, and I'm threatening queen c5 with the idea of queen e7 mate. Obviously, castling gets mated in 1 so many different ways. 1, 2, 3, 4. And not to mention queen h6 will also win. So here he decides to play queen b3. So again, he's hoping that I take the rook, because then maybe he has some chance of fighting on by castling queenside. So instead, I played here queen c5. And the point is that even though I'm losing the rook on d1, I can just play bishop f1. And even though I'm down 2 rooks for 1 bishop, I have a mate, and he has nothing to do but resign here, because this mate is coming, and there's almost nothing he can do about it. And so that is why the game ended here. A very nice short game that was my first win in the tournament, and it boosted my confidence, and I eventually scored 4 out of 9, in that GM norm section. There you have it. One of my best games in America that I've ever played. It was played under 2 years ago. Let me know what you think of that game and what game you'd want to see from me next time. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.